All right, they tell me this thing is on, Dolloff, so this is it.
Here we go.
This is the real deal.
Rock
This
and roll.
is the Patriots training camp recap brought to you by Starland Sportsplex and Fun Park in Hanover. Thank you to Starland for all your support during this training camp. Another day in the books here in Foxborough, another hot day of practice. With these midday practices, the sun beats down. It's been very hot for 2 weeks. The Pats are about to catch a big break as they wrap up this camp over the next week weather-wise. But it felt today like it was sluggish again, and I feel like the weather may have played a factor in that.
Oh my God. I feel like it's playing a factor for everybody that's down there, Beetle. It's the sun is right on top of you in the middle of practice. So I can't imagine what it's like for them to be in pads, crashing into each other over and over again. And on Saturday, they ran almost 70 plays in 11 on 11. So like that has to be taking a toll. But today, yeah, it wasn't quite as intense, I'd say, in the team drills. It was like there were some drills that were like half competitive where, only the tackles and the edge rushers were going against each other and everyone else was just standing there. So I feel like the compete level was dialed back a little bit. It was more of like a walkthrough type of feel. But to be crashing into each other over and over again for almost 2 hours in the 90-degree heat, I feel like everybody could use a reprieve of some sort.
And again, Marc, Bertrand, Matt Dolloff coming to you live from Patriots training camp here in Foxborough, just days ahead of a game Thursday night against the Carolina Panthers, which might explain why it had more of a walkthrough type of feel today.
Yes.
This is a team that's getting ready for a game this week. When the hits get real, the speed of the action gets real. And we haven't seen a ton of that in this camp to this point. We've seen a lot of individual work that's gone at a higher clip, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of team period, it hasn't been all out. So I'm kind of curious to see how they look on Thursday night, but more specifically, how does the offense look in a real game situation come Thursday night? If anything, the defense has continued to win day after day in this camp. I know the offense definitely trended right on Friday and Saturday, but again, was a practice today where you looked down and said, the defense is having a day, and the offense looks like they're stuck in the mud.
Yeah, today was the first day of live tackling. So, I mean, yeah, it felt like most of the practice was almost getting the defense ready to tackle guys. But you could say the same for the receivers and the tight ends. You're getting ready to be tackled. But honestly, it felt a lot like scout team work for the defense. Like we saw the starting defense go up against all the quarterbacks, really. Drake May went up against the starting defense. So I was wondering if like today was really just getting the defense ready, whether it was the run or the pass. But this is honestly, it's why it's hard to judge when it's the Patriots going up against the Patriots, Beetle, because I look at the offensive line and I'm honestly more worried about the pass protection than the run defense or the running game, because I think they're going to be able to stop the run defensively. I think they have the personnel to do that. But when Jacoby Brissett has a clean pocket, who's he really going up against as far as protection? Like, who are they trying to block? There's no Christian Barmore. Matthew Judon wasn't out there for some of it. Keon White's having a really good camp, but it's hard to judge when you think about who they're going up against as far as pass protection. So I know the running game had a tough day today. They were getting stuffed over and over again, especially on those runs up the middle. But I feel like the Patriots are going to be able to stop the run. So I don't know. I wonder what it's going to look like when they go up against another team. So I think it's going to be hard to judge until the game Thursday night.
A little bit of fun in this practice today. Keon White flipped over to the other side and was playing offense.
Yeah, it was like elementary school gym with the green pennies on.
Yeah, and he absolutely blew up Jelani Tavai on one play.
Yeah, he's an athlete.
So that was some fun. That was maybe the most interesting thing we saw out here today. There wasn't a lot to see. This was one of the more boring practices of this camp. I hate to say it.
It was definitely the most boring padded practice.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah, it felt like a very slow pace. And like I said, like a lot of the drills were only half competitive. Like we're all down there with our notebooks. I got the classic pen and paper going, trying to track all the stats, all the passing and all that. Not a lot of passing to begin with. And there were all these drills where it's like, I don't even think we should track this because I don't even know if they're really even trying out there. I feel like it's just like sort of making sure everybody lines up right, knows where to go, knows where to line up and all those things, knows the routes to run. So yeah, it wasn't very competitive, but I don't know if the Heat's started to take a toll on them, but I feel like they're sort of starting to slow down because they have a game coming up, and like they're sort of going to ramp it up back when they get back out there in the game.
Tyquan Thornton was back on the field today. That was one of the positive signs for him, at least.
That was probably the one exciting offensive play was Tyquan Thornton catching a touchdown in the back of the end zone from Jacoby Brissett.
He got out there and he made a play, which I think is important for him because I think right now he is fighting for his roster spot. Right now in my final roster, I have him on the outside looking in. I would have Jalen Reagor making the team ahead of him.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
So every time he makes a play, you've got to rethink that a little bit. I think that's the stage we're at.
Yeah, and I think it was good to see him make a play in pads, right? Because that's been sort of the story with him. Once the pads go on, he sort of shrinks a little bit. He's sort of, he's not as tough at the catch point as he is when there's not as much tackling and there's no pads and all that. So I thought, like, when he's been out there, he's had a good camp. He's getting separation, and he's starting to make plays even with the pads on, like we saw today. But, Rager's an interesting one to me because he's getting a lot of run with the backups mostly, but we've seen him a lot in situational work. It feels like they trust him when they run the 2-minute offense and things like that. So we've seen a lot of Jalen Reagor in the situational work. Maybe that's where, like, his experience helps against, maybe a rookie like Javon Big. Obviously, those guys are making the team. But, yeah, like, the 2 rookies are in. KJ Osborne's in. He's really started to come on the last week or so. And Kendrick Bourne, I think, is in, like, assuming he's like on the roster out of camp. I don't know if he's going to start on PUP or anything like that. So assuming that those, 4 guys are in?
Yeah.
Like Juju Smith-Schuster's out.
Yep.
And Tyquan Thornton and Jalen Reagor are basically battling for a roster spot there. So, yeah, I think it's going to come down to those 2 guys. And if Tyquan Thornton's not healthy by the end of camp, that might be his ticket out of here.
How do you handle the quarterbacks on Thursday night?
I would like to see a lot of Drake May. I'd like to see him, get real game action, whether it's handing off, running the huddle, running the situational stuff, red zone 2-minute. Like we've seen, he's looked really good in the red zone stuff, but a lot of that has been 7-on-7. I think this is where I'd sort of compare Drake May to Mac Jones. You get the offensive line in front of him, you get an actual pass rush going, and it hasn't looked quite as crisp with him. So I want to see how that looks in a real game against a different opponent when he's not going up against his own team, especially when the Patriots defense, you wonder how much pressure they're going to get on the quarterback without Christian Barmore out there. So I want to see Drake May get a lot of real game action because I feel like eventually as in his rookie year, we're going to see him at some point. So I think Jacoby Brissett's the starter to begin the season, but I think you got to get Drake May in there as much as you can, to have him ready for when he actually goes in there.
Yeah, live full speed reps against an opponent is going to be better for him than whatever reps he's getting in practice now or whatever reps he's going to get once Jacoby Brissett is inevitably named the starter. And I think that he is the starter. I think that's been established in this camp.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that Drake May's really been given a chance to compete for that job.
No, he hasn't. No, and this is what's way different between Cam Newton and Mac Jones that first year of Mac Jones is that they had both guys repping with the starters. It sort of turned into a competition halfway through camp, and that hasn't materialized at all. We haven't seen Drake May with the starting offensive line for even one snap, I don't think. So he's been in there with the backups. I think that alone tells you how far away they think he is to just being able to run the offense. I feel like if he had a chance to be the starter anytime soon, that they'd be putting him behind the starters at some point. It just hasn't happened for him. I feel like Jacoby Brissett's been the guy from day one, and I know you've been big on the whole Alex Van Pelt connection.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like he's looked good. Brissett's looked good. If Brissett wasn't playing well and Drake May was looking better with the backups, we'd probably be saying, what the hell's going on here? What are we doing?
Yeah.
But
and I don't want Drake May to start.
No.
Right? I don't want him to start. So for me, it's great. But I also think it's unfair to bury him. I think they're burying him. I think they're afraid of a competition that could turn into Drake May looking so good that he turns some heads or maybe even outright would win the job. They don't want that mess. They don't want to deal with that. They want to start Jacoby Brissett. Yeah. So they're making sure it will be Brissett. And he's looked good, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to take anything away from him.
That's what I'm saying.
He has looked good. So in terms of how will the team look, come opening weekend, they're going to look good with Jacoby Brissett, as good as they would with Drake May. I don't think there's any argument to be made that Drake May could look better than him right now.
They'll look better with Jacoby Brissett as long as he has a clean pocket, right? That's what I'm going to be watching for. The tackles have been all over the place as far as who's on the left side, who's on the right side. Okorafor has been out the last couple practices, so it feels like he's dealing with something. So if it's Vadarian Lowe at left tackle and Calvin Anderson at right tackle, I'm very interested to see how the pass protection looks against an actual opponent.
So let's wrap up this recap of the day talking about Matthew Judon. And the story with Judon was what he was saying after practice when he went to the podium and met with the media. He did not sound like a guy who has been promised a new deal or is close to reaching a new deal with the Patriots. I thought he was back to being evasive. He didn't exactly hit on the questions head on, and he seemed a little bit combative at times with some of the answers that he was giving with the reporters.
You thought having Jelani Tabai answer a couple questions was evasive?
A little bit.
Yeah, no, look, I think Judon's eventually going to give in. I think he's going to give in on whatever they're going to offer him because he keeps saying he wants to stay here. He wants to finish his career here. He's I know this was half joking, but he says he's too lazy to move. I don't think he wants to go anywhere else. I don't think he wants to demand a trade, as unhappy as he might be. So I think eventually he's just going to say whatever they're offering, I'm going to have to take because I'm going to have to play on this deal. And, maybe they go year to year with him or something like that after this year. But I just don't think he's not going to get close to the deal he wants. He wants like a long-term deal. He's not going to get that anywhere. He's 32 years old, coming off a torn bicep. And like, you wonder how much he really has left. I think he can still be a very good player, but the health things and the age, like he's just not going to get the long-term deal he wants here or anywhere. So if he doesn't want to go anywhere, if he doesn't want to be traded out of here, he just wants to stay here and finish his career as a Patriot. He's going to do whatever the team is putting in front of him. So I think that's what's eventually going to happen with him.
I think the team has probably told him he's out of options.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? You're going to hold out and go home and get fined?
The Patriots have all the leverage here because Judon is he's happy here and he wants to stay.
They're sticking it to him now.
Yeah.
Right? They're basically putting him in a difficult spot of having to show up, but he's clearly unhappy. And I think that was what he was expressing again today. He wanted to let everybody know this is not resolved. My contract situation is not resolved, but I have to show up and contractually go to work.
Yeah,
I mean, he said that.
It's clearly not resolved, and like who knows when it's going to be resolved. But yeah, I think he's just going to have to play it out. Hopefully, he's not too disgruntled throughout the season. Hopefully, that doesn't cause issues behind the scenes. I think that's what we're going to have to hold our breath for because this team is probably even if the offense is sort of a representative offense, even if they're serviceable on offense, they're still going to need to win some games on defense. I think they're still going to be sort of a middle of the pack, a bottom 10 type of offense at best, I would say. So they're going to need Judon to be sort of on the reservation here. And so maybe they have to give him a little something to appease him, but I feel like the team just has all the leverage in that spot, and so that he's just going to eventually take what the team's willing to give him.
All right, it's preseason game number 1 this week, and plenty of coverage at 98.5thesportshub.com. Make sure you go to the website, get the latest from Bart, get the latest from Matt Dolloff, and of course, make sure you hit subscribe on our YouTube channel, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Game coming up Thursday night, which of course you can hear right here on the Sports Hub. I'll have your pregame coverage with Gasper beginning in the afternoon at 4 o'clock. Hoodie's kicking the camera. Thank you very much. Yeah, there you go. Frame that back up nicely so we can finish strong. And of course, Sosi and Phil Perry on the call coming up this Thursday night. So thanks for tuning in. It'll happen again tomorrow. Zolak and Bertrand starting at 10 a.m. live for Patriots training camp on Tuesday. I'll talk to you then.